Hey, and welcome to part two of how I think New Zealand can properly prepare for the South American playoffs. Part one, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I'll link it in the description below. It was made before the identity of New Zealand's opponent was made, but now that the South American World Cup qualifying zone has completed its qualifiers and we now know who New Zealand will be playing, Peru, here is an update, sort of a part two, as I was planning on making this into two parts, but just did not get around to making the second part yet. How the All Whites of New Zealand can properly prepare themselves against Peru. So in part one, I said that they should play a psychological mind game and head over to South America, uh, watch all of Argentina's games live, so as sort of to amp up the Argentinian team into preventing them from being New Zealand's opponent. Luckily for them, that did not come to pass as Argentina took care of business against Ecuador and have subsequently finished in third in South American World Cup qualifying. But now there's still something New Zealand can do to give themselves a better chance against Peru next month. And this is what I would do. Instead of scheduling friendlies against teams like Japan, as New Zealand have done, um, they should have scheduled friendlies with some South American teams. Now, of course, that comes with a risk because federations of South American teams have to agree to those friendlies, but it's a risk worth taking. And New Zealand can offer to fly there physically and play against Argentina or Chile or Colombia or Uruguay or Bolivia, even uh, Venezuela, any South American team, hell, even Brazil, to get their asses kicked a bit to properly give them a taste of what to expect from Peru. Because New Zealand, coming from Oceania, they're not really exposed to international competition, especially from South America, unless they participate in major international tournaments. So I think that what New Zealand should have done, instead of getting friendlies against other teams who have qualified, no disrespect to Japan, but teams that are not as good as the South American teams, I think what New Zealand should have done was play a few friendlies against a South American team. You have an entire month between now and when the playoffs begin, I believe in the second week of November, all the way till mid-November. So they still have a month, relatively speaking. So I just don't see why scheduling friendlies against teams like Japan is really going to help New Zealand. Um, or if they couldn't get that done, if they couldn't get any South American team to agree to playing in friendlies, what I would do if I was Coach Anthony Hudson is I would have flown, and there's still time, so he still can do it. I would fly the New Zealand team to South America, fly them to probably Peru, set them up there with training facilities, watch hours of footage of this Peruvian team playing. I'm sure they're already doing that. They're doing scouting reports on this Peru team. But I would fly there physically because you want to get your players properly acclimatized, used to the conditions they will be playing in. Now, luckily for New Zealand, Lima is at sea level, so they're not going to be playing at high altitude as they would against Ecuador or Bolivia. But you still want to get, because it's still a radically different atmosphere than New Zealand. So I would have flown this team over to Peru, stayed there for 2 or 3 weeks. Or you know what? I would have flown them over there now and not come back until it's time to come back for the first leg in Wellington. So, like I said, 2 or 3 weeks, because you want to get your players used to the atmosphere. And while you're there, while you're in the South American continent, hopefully set up base in Peru while getting 1 or 2 friendlies in there against some South American opposition. I think that's a more proper way to prepare this team for Peru. Um, the good thing is, though, that it is Peru and it's not Brazil or Argentina or Uruguay or Chile or Colombia. Peru is a very good team. They have a lot of momentum with them right now. But like I said in my previous video, the the ideal team that New Zealand wanted to play, other than Peru, was probably Paraguay. So this is manageable. It's navigable. Um, but I just don't think they're taking the necessary steps to ready themselves for this really, really difficult test against Peru. Um, I'd be getting those guys on a plane, sending them over to South America right now, and training. So that's what I would do if I was managing this New Zealand team. So yeah, that concludes it for part 2. Leave a comment below, like, subscribe. This is the second and final video. I just don't feel a need to keep going into this. There's not much to talk about. So yeah, that's about all for this topic. And I'll see you guys later on today. Hopefully, God willing. Until then, much love and peace out.